Now in today's video, we're going to take a look at my transfer plans ahead of game week 10. I've got 2 free transfers, so let's go and dive into today's video. Now, of course, before we dive into today's video, if you do enjoy any of the content that you see on the channel, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe as we are trying to hit 25,000 subscribers before the end of the season. It'd be absolutely amazing if we could, of course, hit that goal. If you've got any dilemmas about your team as well, get them in the comments and we'll try to answer them as best as we possibly can. As you can see on screen right now is my rank kind of and my points from obviously game week 9. It was a green arrow. We got a 200,000 green arrow, so you can never grumble at that. However, before Mickey van der Ven did, of course, go and get his brace in the final game of the weekend, we were just outside of the top 1 million, and I think that would have been a really nice place for us to be in, but unfortunately it wasn't the case. But we still managed to get a green arrow despite only having 1 goal scorer in our entire team for this weekend, and that was Joe Rodon in the first game of the weekend. Nobody else scored from our side, but I think that's probably the case for a lot of people this week. A very weird week in FPL, to be honest. All our points pretty much just coming from the defensive players, so we are going to speak a little bit more about that and maybe prioritising defensive transfers and certain teams ahead of others over the next few weeks as well, with of course that. I was a little bit disappointed with Saka obviously coming off early as well, but it does look like that one was just more based around illness rather than obviously some kind of, tactical strategy or, of course, some sort of, injury that he was dealing with. It was, just illness, so hopefully we should see pretty regular minutes for him. I think João Pedro's time as well, another blank for him, another game without a shot. I think that is it. Despite, some good fixtures coming up for Chelsea, I just can't justify having a striker within my side that isn't taking shots and isn't picking up points. So he is going to be going, and of course we're going to be talking about my potential replacement for that one. So let's just dive in. Let's just go straight for it. Let's take a look at some of the players I am thinking about. Starting off first then with that João Pedro replacement. It is, of course, going to be Mateta. I think this is possibly one of the most easiest moves that people are thinking about doing this potential game week. We're going to look at Crystal Palace's schedule in a second. That is something that I do need to bring up. But Mateta from João Pedro is just honestly one of the easiest switches, and I think it is going to be one of the most popular transfer moves that FPL managers are going to make this week. They're playing some of the worst sides for XG conceded in the league right now over the next 6 game weeks. He's got really good underlying data, and Crystal Palace have actually been one of the best sides for XG created. Obviously, granted, this weekend, probably not an ideal game to judge against, and we'll see why that is in a second, because Arsenal are just absolutely ridiculous and are honestly just on another level defensively. So I don't think that would be a fixture that I would be judging Jean-Philippe Mateta off the basis of. We've got to look at the games that he's got coming up, and there are just honestly, like I said, some absolutely brilliant fixtures. Back-to-back home games as well, big tick in my eyes. Playing Burnley, who are currently sat the worst side for XG conceded in the league. Wolves, who are really struggling at the moment and probably going to be looking to, potentially sack their manager if results continue to be this disappointing. You've got Mateta, who already has created more chances than João Pedro has had shots this season, which kind of just says the levels that we are, of course, going to be moving on into Jean-Philippe Mateta. I think it just makes sense. The minutes have been very good. He's on penalties, which is a big tick for me. His underlying data looks really good, and the fixtures are definitely there. I think if you're planning on doing this move, I think, to me, to be honest, it is just a real no-brainer, and I don't think you should overthink it and probably just make the move. However, there is something I do think we need to consider with Crystal Palace players. It is the amount of fixtures coming up. So I think Mateta, it probably maybe goes against it because Nketiah isn't just the same level. There is nobody else that can compare to Jean-Philippe Mateta. I'm kind of singing his song here. But for me personally, I don't think Nketiah probably starts ahead of Jean-Philippe Mateta in any Premier League game. But my concern, as you can see right here, is the amount of fixtures that Crystal Palace have got coming up. So obviously we've just seen the Arsenal game. Then they've got a midweek fixture. So if you are planning on bringing in Jean-Philippe Mateta, wait till Crystal Palace have, of course, got through that Liverpool game. Then, of course, you see November. There are no breaks in there for November for Crystal Palace players because the one weekend where there isn't any games, that of course is the international break. Then you start to look in December and you are seeing there pretty much Wednesday, Sunday, Thursday, Sunday, Thursday, Sunday, Saturday. If they obviously beat Liverpool as well, they are going to have a Carabao Cup match that will have to be slotted in there around there at some point. That for me either is going to be the weekend of the Leeds game or potentially, you know, that the City game is where maybe they might put it, right? Or what they could do is put it after the game, so after the 21st. It could go obviously like the 23rd and, you know, just be right before Christmas. So Crystal Palace again might not have any breaks there. Then of course you look into January and you're seeing a midweek Premier League game. Then you're thinking, okay, well they've got no fixtures on that weekend before the 17th and after the 7th. That is not the case. That is where the FA Cup third round fixtures will go. Of course, we're just heading into the FA Cup first round, so there isn't going to be any kind of draw in there. So if you're looking at that and factoring in obviously if Crystal Palace do progress for the next round of the Carabao Cup, their next break realistically could be the week of Christmas, or it could be in the middle of January. That is a lot of football for a side that don't have a lot of players. Like, it's a very, very small squad, and I do think that is going to start to impact them over this busy period. Just look how busy December is. And you might be arguing to yourself, well, this is going to be the same for a lot of teams in Europe. And I 100% agree with you. But what I'm saying here is a lot of those sides have been geared towards European football for many years now. They've built squads in place. They know kind of how the structure is going to work and have set players that will, of course, come to the limelight in these games. Palace, on the other hand, this is their first time in Europe. This is going to be a completely new concept, and it is obviously going to be something that Glasner is going to have to manage with this short squad. That is my only concern with picking up Crystal Palace players this week. From a Premier League perspective, the fixtures look amazing. However, there are a lot of games coming up for Crystal Palace. So do bear that in mind. There might be some rotation. There might be further headaches down the line. And that is actually one of the reasons that I went Keane out over Richards this week, is I just see a lot of games in here, especially in December, that midweek Premier League fixture against Burnley. That might be one where maybe they identify that's maybe a game where we rotate a little bit, get rid of some of our, obviously, you know, other players. That in game week 14 could be a potential banana skin there. So that is where my head is at currently, and that is just something I wanted to flag to you guys ahead of course, bringing in Crystal Palace players. Because, you know, if you just look on paper and look at the Premier League fixtures, they do look amazing. But like I said, I think that is something that potentially could be a little bit of banana skin, how many fixtures they, of course, do have coming up in the kind of back end of the 2025 year. Let's then take a look at the defensive numbers, because people have been asking me questions. Is it going to be worth going for the triple up in terms of Arsenal defence? And it is something I have, of course, thought about. All this data, by the way, is provided by Fantasy Football Hub. If you want to go and check it out, there is a link in my description. That, of course, is where you saw my live team as well, and where you'll see, obviously, all the planned transfers in a second as well, as always with these transfer plans videos. So I filtered this by XG conceded. So these are the top sides for expected goals conceded so far in the league. And as you can see, Arsenal are absolutely clear of everybody on this metric here, right? Goals conceded, they've only conceded 3. Set play goals, 9. 6 clean sheets, 5.28 expected goals conceded. They have the best XG set play as well, and have only conceded 5 big chances so far this season. Everybody else on this list, and on the full list of Premier League teams, the second lowest is 10. So double the amount of big chances conceded for every other defence in the league. We're seeing Gyökeres now with 5 blanks in a row. We're seeing Saka maybe get the early substitution. Now, I know, obviously, I said there's illness and stuff, but maybe that might become a more frequent thing as they look to protect him a little bit better this season. They've got Madueke, who will return from injury at some point. And I'm looking at all of this data, right? And I'm looking at Arsenal, and I'm looking at how they're scoring their goals. It's from set pieces. It's keeping it tight at the back. It's limiting the opposition to big chances. And I'm looking at all of this, and I'm thinking to myself, why are we all not rocking that triple Arsenal defence. Now, I've currently got the two guys on screen here in Gabriel and Raya, and I'm honestly going to say this right now, I don't think just having one of them is going to be enough in the next few weeks. We're seeing Gabriel's ownership increase because of how good he's been and how good the performances have been, not only just in terms of those clean sheets, but he's got defensive contributions and, of course, as well, has been doing just amazing stuff with set plays. Very unfortunate not to have come away with a bigger double-digit haul in the game at the weekend. So I'm seeing all this and I'm thinking, right, well, one's definitely not going to be enough. You're going to need two to probably get any sort of kind of gain out of Arsenal now keeping a clean sheet. Then I'm looking at these numbers again, and they are just an absolute joke compared to everybody else in the Premier League right now. And I am thinking to myself, then maybe we just go for the triple up. We balls it. We go fully in on it and just, you know, take a little bit of a risk because the attackers aren't putting up any, you know, mega hauls compared to the defenders we've seen so far this season. We've seen Gabriel put them up. We've seen Timber put them up. We've seen Calafiori put them up. Obviously, Raya was close to hitting bonus despite doing absolutely niche. And obviously, if they're going to keep, you know, many clean sheets this season, he's just going to be a steady 6-pointer across the year. You look at all the 11ify data that we go through every single week. You look at the Rob T data as well. It's just projections of long clean sheets for Arsenal. So I am sat here and I am thinking maybe that is something we need to obviously bear in mind over the next few weeks. Maybe there is going to be a tactical switch for myself to, of course, get rid of Saka and look to maybe just go for that triple up in terms of Arsenal defence. Some other key data I did obviously notice from this as well is Leeds and Sunderland maybe aren't going to be the whipping boys this season. Maybe they're not going to be pushover sides because as you can see here, their XG conceded is very good. Their XG set play also not too bad. And we are seeing plenty of set play goals, of course, as well from Leeds and Sunderland. So if you've got those 4 million defenders with, you know, grey fixtures potentially, or maybe, you know, a green away fixture, definitely could also be worth playing over the next few weeks because, like I said, the data is definitely there. They're obviously getting goals and chances from set plays as well, and that might be something to consider over the next few weeks as well. Let me know what you think of potentially going for a triple Arsenal defence. I'm really keen on the idea, to be honest. I think it could be one that has a lot of potential in it, but let me know what you think of it down in the comments section. Okay, let's finish up then. Let's take a look at how my team is going to be lining up over the next few weeks. Like I said, we have, of course, bought in Jean-Philippe Mateta for this week. I think that is going to be pretty much the transfer that I'm going to make. I'm just going to make sure that, of course, him and Palace make it unscathed through that fixture against Liverpool on Wednesday before, of course, doing that move. I don't imagine he's going to probably rise again. Obviously till Wednesday, he's already had one rise, so I don't really see that happening. Maybe João Pedro might drop if more and more people sell him, but hopefully we can, of course, hold off until we do get to after Wednesday night when that fixture has taken place. So as you can see here, I'm pretty happy with how the squad is looking. I think it's a very easy role than the other additional transfer. That then means in game week 11, we would, of course, have an additional 2 transfers here. But again, as you can see, the team is just looking ridiculously strong for that period. We'll obviously bring in Senesi for Rodon, and again, I'm very happy just to play through that, go with the players we've got and continue to go on. Game week 12, again, I think it's a very easy role. Obviously, Senesi would probably come in for Keane, and like we just saw with the XG conceded numbers, Leeds don't look that bad a unit, and we very easily could play, of course, Rodon yet again. We could also have Anderson against Sunderland for that week as well, where maybe we might potentially need him going further forward there as well. That might be an area that, of course, we do look to make a transfer in if Anderson isn't going to be readily available for the next few game weeks. He might be a player that, of course, we do switch out for another cheaper defender. Potentially, I'm tempted to look at another 4 million defender, free up some more budget, or like I said, there might be that switch away from Saka, potentially to somebody like a Palmer with him being back, or maybe like a double United pivot with Mbeumo also being an option in there with some great long-term fixtures for Manchester United. And like I said, just go for that triple stack in terms of Arsenal defence. If I do think they are going to be obviously as good as I am expecting them to be, and obviously if they keep up the numbers that they are putting up already so far this season. People have also been asking me, when am I planning on playing my free hit and, of course, my triple captaincy? I'm going to wait to see what happens if, of course, Crystal Palace do beat Liverpool in the next round of the Carabao Cup. That could have big ramifications for potential blanks and, of course, double game weeks. That is something that, of course, will be very handy if you've got your triple captain and your free hit yet to play as well. So that's for me what I'm going to do. I'm just going to sit on my hands, let that fixture play out, then see kind of, you know, what the landscape looks like in the next few weeks, and see if a blank or a double is, of course, going to emerge itself as a potential option. Like I said, those are my transfer targets ahead of FPL Game Week 10. If you did enjoy today's video, make sure you're liking, commenting, and subscribing, and all that good stuff. And the best of luck for Game Week 10.